And that's kind of how you get down that that snowball effect, and you tumble down this hill of kind of again, like you said, isolating yourself when you feel like that you're the only person dealing with these problems and you're the only person that's ever experienced this. And then it's hard to reach out. It's hard to talk about. It's hard to want to feel like people are going to be able to understand you or relate to you when you feel like in your head, in that cognitive dissonance, that this is only my problem. This is only something that I've been through. And it's, You're listening to Little Pricks Podcast. We're so happy you're here. Get comfortable and enjoy the episode.
Hello there, and welcome back to another episode of your favorite Little Pricks podcast.
Oh, yeah. Emphasis on the pricks part. My name's Devon.
My name is Fareed, and let us go in on this beautiful journey of self-exploration.
Oh, yeah. How are we doing it today, pal?
Well, we're going to have fun. You guys get to watch our conversation as friends, talking about mental health topics that we face.
Yeah.
These are our opinions, and hopefully
our experiences that we like to share to hopefully give you guys some direction, because this life's freaking nuts, and there's no blueprint. And I don't know about you, but when I first started going to therapy, it wasn't actual therapy. I just had free resources of people being vulnerable and talking to each other. And while we always recommend therapy, and while we always make the disclaimer that we're definitely not therapists, it's just nice to have some people that you feel like you can relate to. So we hope that we can do that for you guys. And I think we have a really good topic today.
And that way, hopefully, y'all can sit there and feel like you're not alone at times.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's
man.
what we want to put our conversations public. But yes.
I actually kind of want to introduce this one.
You should. This is your topic.
Well,
this
yeah.
is a good one.
I was thinking about it, and I was going through, because we have this big list of topics that we kind of add to. And I was looking through them, and I was kind of trying to find some inspiration. I was kind of stumped a little bit, and then I stumbled across this one. I was like, oh no.
It's a good one.
Oh no. And it says that we suffer far more in our heads than we ever do in reality. And when I tell you that hit me like a runaway semi-truck with no brakes on a freaking 15% grade downhill.
Jake brake's gone. All of it's gone.
God, it hit me so hard. And not that it necessarily resonates quite as much lately. Obviously I've gotten a bit better, but it's still relevant.
Absolutely.
It still happens. It still happens to me more than I care to admit to be honest with you.
So the topic is headspace versus reality, right?
Yeah.
How much we suffer in our own heads, at our own hand.
Yeah. Versus what actually happens in your life, and it's woof. Think about it, man. We live in our heads all the time. That's where you literally spend all your time. And it's funny to think about, because I don't know, it's just not such a prominent thought for me. It's not something that I'm so constantly or cognitively aware of. But that's literally where you are.
Mm-hmm.
Unless you have every second.
Unless you have no internal voice, then I don't know how that works for you.
Yeah, that's insane. That's kind of rare, and that's a whole other thing. But that is interesting. That some people don't have an internal monologue or
So for
good for those people.
Us,
yeah, good for those people. But for us that are anxiously attached and just anxious in general, and do have that internal monologue, welcome to hell.
Welcome to hell.
This is where we are.
So as I was kind of considering this more and more, I realized that headspace versus reality is effectively cognitive dissonance.
And I love that, because I've never really explored that topic or that concept. So I'm really excited to hear you talk about that.
Sure. So this is something I explored a lot with my therapist.
Oh, okay. That makes sense.
And so that's
this is why we recommend therapy.
Yes.
Therapy helps so much.
My therapist helped me understand, and it's a very simple concept for the most part, and it's something that we all suffer from at some point or another, if not actively for years on end.
Like I said, I still, to this day, more than I care to admit to.
For sure. And so we're going to go ahead and define cognitive dissonance first. You know how I like to define things.
Yeah, do it, man.
Define the problem first, and that's the state of having inconsistent thoughts, beliefs, or attitudes, especially as relating to behavioral decisions and attitude change. And this effectively relates to how you view the world.
Right? Sure. Absolutely.
So cognitive dissonance basically means that your thought process does not line up with actual reality. And so it takes a real objective way of thinking to bring that back into correction, so to speak. Yeah.
Kind of get this.
So we now know what the problem is, so to speak.
Yeah.
That most of us suffer due to this cognitive dissonance because we create our own world.
Yeah, sure. Absolutely.
We don't take the world for what it is.
Yeah.
Right? And I know that you were mentioning the process often starts with just our self-talk.
Oh, absolutely, man. Your self-talk it directly correlates with how you feel about yourself, right? Like, if your self-talk is, I kind of talked about in the last episode of like, oh, I'm undeserving of this healthy relationship, or I'm undeserving of this success, or I'm undeserving of this job promotion, whatever, it directly correlates and parallels to how you feel about yourself, right? So I think that's huge, kind of, the direct reflection of yourself. And then also we kind of like, when you have that negative self-talk, again, like you said, it alters that lens that you look through and perceive the world through. So like, that's going to alter the way I maybe feel about, I don't know, in my relationship, like for our anxious attachment sweeties out there.
Hey guys, we see you.
Yeah, we love you. And I'm part of you. And we're going to make it. We're going to be okay. But,
we're going to be fine.
Yeah. I'm trying. We're trying out here. No, but like, sometimes in that context, in a relationship, maybe you worry about what your partner is doing or who they're talking to, or like maybe you have like that big, deep-rooted fear of abandonment or stuff like that. That comes from, self-talk or your self-image, and like, you don't realize it, but subconsciously, your self-talk is, I don't deserve them. They don't love me. They have no reason to really stay with me, when it's like, dude, you're so awesome. You're so great. And you have all of the reason for them to want to be with you. And you don't have a need to worry about all these things, right? So it kind of like bleeds into that. And what other ways do you feel like it's kind of manifested for you, or what do you have to kind of add to that?
So I had a very direct form of cognitive dissonance.
Okay.
And I will straight up go into what my therapist and I talked about. I don't
fair.
care.
Oh, good for you, man. That's cool. Vulnerability, right? We got to practice what we preach.
Absolutely. Like this is the damage that I went through, and effectively, as a child, and I've mentioned it on other podcasts, so you should watch those if you want more insight on who I am.
Yeah. Which one's the early episodes about the going no contact with family members?
No, it was the cost of change.
The cost of change. Okay, I'll link that one.
It's one of my favorite ones.
I'll link that one. Yep.
But for me, it was growing up, I would say, being suppressed by people around me.
Okay.
Never understood why, so to speak, but I was definitely picked on, bullied quite a bit, and I was just lucky enough that I didn't quite get it.
Yeah.
Or it was so active that my brain kind of just shut it off.
Okay.
But in that process, I created a different image of myself.
Oh.
Right? Like nothing was appropriate for what I actually was.
Yeah.
So because I was bullied enough and I was picked on enough, my brain simply started to say, you know what? You are small, you are insignificant, and you are ugly.
Wow.
And so those are the thoughts that I had in my head. And more importantly, defenseless, right? And that was kind of a rough thing to work through. And I didn't work through it, to be fair. Right? I spent many, many years up until I would say almost a year ago.
Yeah.
Realistically.
Yeah, dude, this last year for you has been huge, for sure.
I would say roughly about 9-10 months ago, where that was my belief, right? I mean, I look confident on the outside because I've trained myself to survive, and you really couldn't tell it of me. But internally, I didn't understand that my self-view was a distorted one, and it was of a person that was small, insignificant, and ugly, and most importantly, defenseless. And so I had to go and kind of dig in deep and understand why these things were there. And it was because, when you are bullied enough, if enough people tell you something, you start to believe it, right? And that people always ask, well, why didn't you fight back? How do you fight back from something like that as a child?
Right, yeah, you're a kid, man. Like, I would like to even add that similarly, and part of the things that like play into maybe some of the things like anxious attachment style that I talked about right before this, it's not even necessarily anything that has to directly be said to you or bullying or anything like that. Like, it could be like a lack of attention and affection from your parents. For me, that's where it comes from. For me, like, you got the bullying, had great parents, fantastic
parents,
but for me, it was just like the lack of my parents' presence in my life. You know what I mean? That
Yeah.
kind of led to
Absolutely.
that negative self-talk that I had and that cognitive dissonance of like, I'm not worthy of these things, or like, I'm not a lovable person, or I'm not someone that is worthy of good things. Not necessarily because anybody told me that, or because anybody bullied me or told me I was ugly or told me X, Y, or Z, but just because in my reality or my experience or whatever I convinced my brain of, I was told these, or I was telling myself these things based off of the experience I had.
I have a wholehearted thought
Yeah.
and belief that I think a lot of us in society suffer from some form of this due to some kind of trauma.
Just something.
Right?
Yeah, sure.
And unfortunately, we end up taking it out on people around us that we care about and we love. And so there's a very good driving reason as to why we should absolutely work on any cognitive dissonance we have with ourselves and hopefully expel it as best as we can.
No, sure. And it's like, it's just...
Because we typically tend to take it out on those that we love and care about.
Not intentionally, I would like to add. I mean,
Unintentionally,
and,
for sure.
And of course, it doesn't negate the necessity for people to take accountability for their actions. But
And
like,
I'll give you an example of how we might do that. And I'll only use myself.
Yeah,
because
no,
that's
sure,
all I can use,
absolutely.
right? As a person who believed he wasn't worthy of love or affection because he wasn't important, he wasn't attractive. That's an awesome airplane. Wow.
yeah, there's so we're in Tucson, Arizona, for those of you that don't know. And there is a humongous Air Force base out here. A lot of Air Force veterans out here, and a lot of planes fly through the sky in
lot of
Tucson.
planes,
A
yeah.
lot.
Like I was saying, so for someone who didn't believe he was attractive, someone didn't believe he had value to provide a potential partner, I needed a lot of validation.
No, for
A
sure.
lot of validation. I needed to know that people thought I was good looking. I needed to know that people thought
Damn, we should do an episode on that.
on what?
Like external, internal validation. I think it's
Oh,
one of our
absolutely.
episode topics.
Yeah.
Anyway.
And I needed people to tell me those things. I needed attention because I felt starved of it at all times.
Wow.
And
yeah.
again, that was a cognitive dissonance.
No, sure.
Because
sure.
realistically, was I? Probably not. But my brain,
Right.
it was became like a cup that had a hole in it. You could never fill it.
Oh,
And
what
the
a good
only way
analogy.
to fill that was to take count of what I was doing, understand what I was feeling, and plug up that hole. And now I'm a person that I don't really need that much external validation. I mean, we all need it to some extent, but I'm
and,
fine.
and not to paint the picture that external validation is bad, because it's not. But,
No,
but
no.
Constantly needing it, and that analogy that you spoke of having a hole in your cup that can never be filled.
Yep.
Bravo, sir.
Absolutely. And unfortunately, the people that paid for that the most were the people I cared about, partners, people I was dating, right?
Yeah.
Because suddenly their validation wasn't enough.
Yep.
And I created that monster, right?
Wow, man.
Because I didn't take the time to really understand. And that's why therapy is so important.
Yeah.
I didn't fully understand that until I allowed myself to feel those things. But you need to do these things. And they're perfectly normal, I want to add.
No,
right?
sure.
We
No, of
all
course.
have some extent of it. And I want to bring up a point, right? We were joking about it, laughing about it, but the song The Middle by Jimmy Eat World.
Dude, I love Jimmy Eat World.
It's a
Can we
great
just,
band.
for one brief moment, circa, 2005 or 6, maybe when Guitar Hero 2 or 3 came out? I think it was Guitar Hero 3 that this song was on. And I was living my best life. The song came out in like early 2000s, like 2001.
I don't
think.
know when it came out.
I think it was
now.
like 2001 this song got, or at least that's when it got popular. But like, just take me back to the summer of 2005, 2006.
There was a good summer in there.
When I'm
somewhere,
like playing Guitar Hero and Jimmy Eat World's on, I feel like I'm a rock star.
I never had those kinds of toys.
No?
No.
You had the what, Nintendo? Son, happy birthday.
Yeah, your
dad?
I told you the story, right?
Yeah, your dad, yeah.
God bless my father. I love him, and I'm greatly appreciative to that now.
Yeah.
They never really spoiled us with video games,
Right.
and God, I'm so grateful.
Yeah?
Oh my goodness, yes.
No, that's why I'm like, got huge stretched ears and tattoos and piercings in my face, because I played Guitar Hero.
Video games ruined you, but
Yeah.
like I was saying, the song Jimmy Eat World, The Middle, right? Mm-hmm. The lyrics hit me yesterday. I was out
dude.
eating dinner, and I hadn't thought about this topic too much, but it goes, hey, don't write yourself off yet. It's only in your head that you feel left out or looked down on.
God.
And then it gives you the solution, right?
Boom.
It goes, just try your best, try everything you can, and don't worry what they tell themselves when you're away. It just takes some time. Little girl, you're in the middle of the ride. Everything will be just fine. And that is such a great way to just wrap up that feeling,
Yeah.
right? Just
Yeah,
do your
absolutely.
best, be yourself. We're all in that same headspace at some point,
sure.
thinking
Yeah.
to ourselves that everybody is almost like out to get you, so to speak.
Mm-hmm.
And this song
Or
is
that
just
you just feel like an outcast, right? Like the song, especially if you watch like the music video, is just like the kind of conceptualizing being an outcast and like kind of not fitting in with the cool kids or fitting in with the vast majority, right?
And that video was actually really cool in the sense that, like, for me, actually, that makes a lot more sense, right? This song is literally about going out, being debaucherous. Everyone's making out. They're half naked. They're just doing terrible
That does
things.
a big pool party, like a house party.
It's
Probably
a house
it,
party,
yeah, it looked like
yeah.
a house party, yeah. But
And then you have two people that come in. They just feel completely uncomfortable. And they're like, do we have to do this? Fine. We'll strip down naked. It's a girl and a guy. They're separate. But the climax of that video is, right, they see everything going on. They're starting to undress. They're going to do what the crowd is doing.
Yeah.
And they look at each other like, we don't want to do this, but I like you.
yeah,
And we don't have to be like that.
Yeah, man.
And they find people that have that kind of same mentality, and they walk away from
love
it.
it.
It was such a great video.
Love it. Bravo, Jimmy Eat World.
That's a
Bravo.
great video. I'm so excited about that. Yeah.
Yeah, man.
And ultimately, they wrote a song about this because it was so relatable.
Right. Oh, and that's the unfortunate part about music and art is that it never, it doesn't always come from places of like, oh, I'm in such a good mood, I'm so happy. Not that there's no happy music out there, but like most of the time, it's from a common struggle that we all experience together. You know.
That is absolutely the point. I mean, it wouldn't have been so popular if we didn't all just sit there and be like, wow, that really hurts.
Yeah, right.
That's incredible.
By the way, I think when I looked at it on YouTube, there's like 105 million views on it. So, yeah, very common. Something that we all definitely have experienced before. So don't feel alone, guys. You're in this, and if nothing else, little pricks have felt it there with you, and so has Jimmy Eat World.
Yes. So that kind of leads us to the point that, okay, so we understand that there's a commonality in this problem.
Sure.
Most of us face it. And I'd like you guys as the audience to consider something that I know that I've had to consider. We all like to set ourselves apart as if we're special, unique, or different in our problems, right?
Yeah.
And I want to tell you right now, very in your face, you are special as a person, but you are not unique in the problems you're going to have.
Most times not.
Most times
right?
not.
Like it's very rare. Like most of the time, the things that you are feeling or the self doubts that you're having or the negative self talk or this, that, or the other. Like most of the time, a lot of other people feel that way. Like so, you're not alone, and and that's like the biggest thing. Like even, and I'll touch base on another band that I really like. And it's a rap duo that you really get uncomfortable around and listening to their music. But I love them because on the surface they look like these dark, scary, face tattooed, satanic monsters, but they're not. They're super wholesome dudes, and it's the Suicide Boys.
Oh, gotcha.
Yeah. So, but their message is that way. Their message at the end of all of their concerts, all of their events is that like, hey. We've been there, and if we know what it feels like to feel hopeless and to not want to continue on in life and to be addicted to all of these different things and to be at just absolute bare rock bottom. And like if you feel that way, just know that like, hey, you're not alone.
Absolutely.
And like you see that in this song of The Middle by Jimmy Eat World, or you see it in those guys' songs where it's like that common issue, that common suffering brings people together because way more than just you feel that and have dealt with that. You know what I mean?
To the point I was trying to make though is when you're feeling those things, I want you to remove that sense of uniqueness in feeling these problems because then you self-isolate. You start to feel like you're alone in this and that there's no real solution, that you have to figure it out yourself. You don't. You can be an individual on your own, unique as yourself, your personality. But these problems, I want you to understand that you can express them and feel them with other people. So you do not have to be the standalone island in an ocean of other peninsulas and land masses.
And that's kind of how you get down that that snowball effect, and you tumble down this hill of like kind of like, again, like you said, isolating yourself when you feel like that you're the only person dealing with these problems and you're the only person that's ever experienced this. And then it's hard to reach out. It's hard to talk about. It's hard to want to feel like people are going to be able to understand you or relate to you when you feel like in your head, in that cognitive dissonance, that this is only my problem. This is only something that I've been through. And it's,
So now that we've established the problem, we've established that it is a commonality amongst people. It's not something that is just unique to any one person, right? We have that set up, so how do we change this? How do we fix this? How do we come out of this problem? And I would say that there's two different ways and two different processes of doing this, but one is short-term that should hopefully work you up to the long-term solution.
Yeah, sure.
Right?
Yeah.
And I know that you had some of the short-term solutions The
sure.
stuff that gets you kind of moving towards a long-term goal.
Yeah, sure.
And so I'll let you kind of take that one.
Well, so it depends, right? Like when when I'm spiraling, because it's easy to do, right? You have one negative thought and you have one scenario that you're playing out in your head that doesn't even exist most times. Like I do it to myself, like I said, more than I care to admit to. And I just like to use grounding methods, because I'll start to spiral on one thing, and then I just slide down this hill of like, oh, well, if that's true, then this and this and this. And it's like none of it even exists. So I'll do something extreme. Like I've had to bite into like a lemon before or something. Oh, yeah. Now, you want to get grounded and be in the moment and get out of that, like, headspace where you're trailing off and spiraling into, like, fake scenarios and making yourself anxious and worried about stuff. You take a big bite out of it and don't peel it. Nothing. Just take a big bite out of a lemon. Now, I've only had to do that probably, less than a handful of times in my entire life. But, buddy boy, that'll get you. That'll get you in the moment.
Put you in a headspace, right?
And it doesn't have to be that extreme, Like you can drink something cold, or you can like take some ice cubes and rub it under your eyes, kind of wake you up a little bit. You can also ask for like reassurance. Like if it's in a scenario when you're in the relationship and you're kind of, one of those anxious attachment sweeties that we love so much and care about. You guys are going to be just fine. You can ask for reassurance in your relationship. Like just ask, just be like, hey, you love me, right? And even if it's just a simple question of like, hey, you love me, we're okay, right? Then ask for that and be okay. Like they'll give that reassurance to you. And are you okay over there, buddy? Go ahead. Huh?
I can't let go of that.
What, the anxious attachment sweeties? Yeah. I think I got that from therapy, Jeff. Because it makes you feel so validated. It's like, because even in the situation you talked about before where you're like, I kind of isolate yourself or you feel like you're the only person. Yeah. We're all fine. We're going to be okay. We're going to get through this together.
Come on, little attachment sweeties. We're all in this together.
Yeah. March on. March on, sweeties.
I don't know why that's hitting me so beautifully well.
Yeah, man. It's
funny, but not to take away from your points.
No.
It was funny.
No problem at all, man.
Please continue. I couldn't break that one free. I tried staying as quiet as you.
I know you did. I saw you over there. You're like fighting for your life.
I was fighting for my life.
You were, dude. You were fighting for your life. Yeah, so like be okay with that. Ask for reassurance. Like simply ask for reassurance. There's nothing wrong with that. And you'll find that if you do that and you get through that stressful situation or you work through that, those scenarios in your head that you're creating that are causing you angst and worry, you'll get to the other side of that and you'll realize that either one, it wasn't that bad. Like you asked for the reassurance or you did your grounding method and then you got through it and then you have that time to be in the present and relax and take a deep breath and you're like, okay, that wasn't that bad. And even if it was, you got through it. Like, and it's okay now, right? So that's for the short term. That's a lot of the grounding methods I like to use.
The spiraling stuff, right? When
right.
You're sitting there,
like
you're
the
struggling.
Acute problem of I'm spiraling, I'm having this cognitive dissonance, I'm having an anxiety attack, whatever it manifests
Prevent that hyperventilation,
sure.
that panic breakdown. I got you.
Yeah.
And
now for the long term.
Yeah. I don't know if I ever had too many of those situations where I would have that kind of spiraling, but I think that's great to have a short-term solution for that kind of stuff. The grounding method, I think the only one I've ever had was taught to me by Derek's wife, where she would tell me, like, if you're having that mental freak out, you kind of start tapping on your chest. And create kind of a pattern, right? Or your
Me
forehead.
just like slamming, punching in my chest. It's not working.
Guys, it's a mild tap, right? And it's supposed to create a rhythm for you to focus on.
Yeah. That's
Forehead works for me too, right? You go back and forth. That's kind of a small technique. Mild taps, and you, of all of us, couldn't afford another concussion, so watch yourself. But just kind of tapping on yourself and get into that rhythm, right? And it just breaks you from overthinking about your situation. And I got to thank Renee for that one because that's a really lovely one, right? You're just sitting there overthinking. Deep breaths. Yeah,
good for you. You can get away with the forehead taps. For me and my anxious attachment cutie army, we have to bite lemons and take ice cold baths and cold water plunges. And
shock therapy works, man.
Yeah, good for you guys, though. Happy for you.
Anxious cuties. So now I like to to focus on the long-term success.
Yeah.
And that's something that, again, I worked on in therapy. But the biggest thing is I want you to remember, and this is something I focus on, is that no matter what you do with your thought process, you're going to color it in some sort of way, right?
Okay.
And so your biggest goal is to bring it to as neutral of a palette as you can so that you're looking at objective facts.
Yeah.
Try to avoid the subjective and make them objective, right? If it's blue, it's blue. Focus on the fact that it's just blue, right?
Okay.
If you have a financial problem, focus on the numbers, not how those numbers are stressing you out. If you have a problem...
What do you mean? Like, focus on the numbers, not the
If you have a financial problem,
right,
focus on just the numbers and how to correct the numbers. That gives you an objective baseline. If you're panicking about a relationship, right, don't focus on how you're feeling about it. Focus on the communication in the relationship to resolve those issues. I'm afraid my partner is going to go to this conference and cheat on me, right?
Oh, wow. Yeah.
You've created a monster in there. It could be a realistic problem, right?
Oh, no, absolutely.
But instead of sitting there and just thinking about it and coloring it and giving it these nasty shades, talk to your partner. Create a game plan. How can we resolve these issues? For all of these problems that we create, the solution is as easy as, and I say it easy relatively, right?
Right.
You need to work on this for it to ever become easy. Make it objective. Line it out, put it up on the table, write down the actual things that you can almost quantify or objectively look at.
Yeah.
And look at how you interact with them.
Okay.
And then once you've done that, create the game plan of how you're going to deal with them objectively. Because now you have as true of a color of reality as you can.
Yeah.
Right? And then from there, add back the human element. Go in and realize that, yes, this is the robotic way of looking at things, and that's fine. But remember, there's a humanity aspect of it. And then finally, for me, I add a slight bias towards the hopeful.
Yeah.
I will always do a slight bias towards the hopeful, no matter how the situation goes.
Yeah.
Well, my car might break down, but what if the repairs leave it in a better place?
Yeah. Sure. That's fair. Yeah.
Just leave it towards the positive side. And it takes an actual process to do that. You have to sit there and create that process. Catch yourself doing this.
Right, and that's kind of the spot that I'm in now.
That's
I
the
would
first
say, like,
part.
currently, is that, like, now that I've managed to get through all of the acute things, and, like, because, before, for me, it was always the acute. It was always the grounding method. It was always the, hey, I'm on the brink of hyperventilating and, like, having a real panic attack here. And now I'm kind of at this point that you're talking about now. Like, now I'm kind of formulating game plans. Now I'm kind of recognizing and picking up on these behaviors and being like, oh, hold on now. And now my grounding methods maybe aren't so extreme where I'm biting into lemons. Now they're more of like maybe talking to my partner and asking for reassurance, or maybe doing some of these other things that are a little bit less extreme, and formulating these game plans like you were talking about.
That's part of the process, though, right? You have to recognize that you are doing something there that is not helpful. And like you said, once you recognize it, look at your short-term relief. Right. Put your face mask on first. That's something I advocate. Like, if you're going to help someone else, planes crashing, put yourself
your
face
you have
mask
to.
on
Yeah,
first.
everybody's doomed if you don't put your face mask on.
Yep.
Help
you
yourself.
can't help if you're dead.
Right. No. For sure.
Ground yourself if you need to, and that's perfectly appropriate in my opinion. Like, go ahead, get that handled, get that taken care of, and then from there, build your game plan.
Right.
Write down your facts. And then if you need to, write down how you're feeling about those facts and put them in a separate corner where I don't need to worry about this right now.
Yeah.
The microphone. You ever had something that's just right up in your business all the time?
Like the microphone.
You wish it would go away?
Yeah.
That's how I feel about this microphone.
Yeah? Wow.
Yeah. He's always right here. He wants to be right where I need space, dude.
Yeah.
I need personal space. I'm setting
space.
Boundaries.
Yeah, right. Good for you, buddy. Having a healthy relationship with the mic. Now, if you could only do it with women.
What?
Just kidding.
What?
Just kidding, buddy.
What?
Just a joke. Don't spiral. Bite a lemon. Bite a lemon.
I have no lemon.
Ask for reassurance. Bites the computer mouse.
Actually, that's a great point, though, right? I think I've set very healthy boundaries. I would say like the last 10 months have been super healthy.
Oh, yeah.
And for perspective on that one, which I think is a great place to be, when he's saying setting healthy boundaries, I would maybe give a little too much, or accept things that just weren't appropriate, aimed at me. And, I would say it's a little bit too nice
Yeah.
Where it stems from, I'm almost there at the root of it.
Sure.
But, when you give a little too much of yourself, so to speak, to other people, and I've come to the place that I understand that boundaries are fine, right? And I think, I do know where the root is. It just hit me. It's from that same trauma, right?
Yeah,
it's wanting to be accepted, and you're getting that validation, and I realize I don't need it anymore, right? I can validate myself, and so... Yeah, setting healthy boundaries was definitely a good one. It wasn't just with women; it was with people in general. To be fair,
I'm sorry, buddy, if that was insensitive.
No, not
just
at all.
Just a joke.
No, but that's a great thing. I got a breakthrough out of it right now.
Yeah,
I'm not worried about it, buddy.
Yeah, okay.
We have
good
basically very, very, very few limitations on what stuff we can talk about on this podcast. I'm perfectly fine with an open book.
I'm glad for that, man.
So, but like we were saying, lay out your objective thinking.
Yeah.
Right,
yeah,
and then
for sure.
how they make you feel. And then once you've done that, you can set up a game plan to resolve that.
Yeah.
So that's how we at least work on our stuff, and that works for me very well. And I hate to think actually that I deal with high stress levels on a daily basis. And
you do.
Manage
no,
it.
for sure. Your threshold and your baseline for stress, unimaginable, to be honest. So good for you. Although I recommend lemons are cheap.
Lemons are cheap, I'd say. Yeah. Yeah, it's a great one. But we can bring ourselves to a nice, healthy conclusion here. Remember, the first thing is first. You're not unique in these problems.
Yeah, and let's clarify on that.
Problems.
Right. Well, it's just that, like, you're not. And it's sometimes, at face value, just from my perspective, when I first started learning this and I first started understanding this concept of that your problems aren't unique, that on the surface level sounds a bit invalidating.
Oh, absolutely.
You know what I mean?
I feel attacked.
That sounds super invalidating. And we're not saying that you're not unique or that your problems are irrelevant by saying that they're not unique. What we're saying is that there are other people out there that have experienced the same or very similar things that you're experiencing. And we say this so that you don't isolate and so that you understand, recognize, and feel that there are other people out there that can resonate with you and that can be a listening ear for you because of the fact that they've had similar or the same situations and experiences and feelings that you've had. And we see that in songs a lot. It really manifests. It's very, very, very common and very prominent in songs. The Middle by Jimmy Eat World, any of those bands that where people really come together and really resonate with the music and the message and the lyrics. So just so for that's clarified, you are completely valid in what you're feeling. What we're trying to communicate is that you're not alone and that we love you and that other people love you.
And for me, actually, that's the only song I have ever heard that had that kind of message.
Yeah.
And so that's why it struck out to me so vividly. Again, I was at dinner yesterday when it came on, and I decided to listen to the lyrics for a moment, and it hit me.
Yeah.
And so that was really wonderful.
That's pretty cool, man.
It's a totally normal issue.
Oh, completely normal.
And so you do not need to feel weird about this kind of situation.
Well, or isolated.
And the situation, once you start to recognize that this is something for you, I don't want people to wear a badge of honor for how complex they can be, because this issue can vary in its complexity, depending on what your issues are, your traumas are. But I want you to hopefully not sit there and be like, well, mine's more complex than yours, so like I'm more special. Do not try to find uniqueness in how much of a problem you have in your own head.
Because again, that just leads to isolation.
Yes.
Like, instead of trying to find uniqueness in how your situation is uniquely worse or different from everybody else, try to find the commonality that you have with other people and who have had these experiences, even if it means, it doesn't mean that your experience has to be to every dot of the I and cross of the T the same as somebody else. I'm just saying, like, try to find some commonality so that you can have that sense of community and have that.
This might actually be the first great exercise for you in trying to rationalize these thoughts, right?
Sure.
Is the moment you recognize you have a problem, don't try to sit there and hype it up or underplay it, right? Understand it, accept it for what it is. Yeah. Not for what you want it to be or don't want it to be. Right, hopefully you don't become one of those people that don't want to accept, well, I don't have that bad of a problem. It's not that big of a deal. Or,
that's a slippery. I can tell you that from personal experience, yeah.
Or, woe is me, I have the worst form of this cognitive dissonance and it's just not great. No. Find your middle line there, right? Find the baseline, so to speak.
Sure.
Right? Find the middle of it, and that's okay. want to over or underplay it. You want to find the most objective way of looking at your problems. Because if you can't define the problem, if you can't root the problem, you cannot solve the problem.
Right.
And that might just be our theme at this point on Little Pricks.
Sure.
Right?
Yeah, I think so. We've shot enough episodes. I think we're starting to develop a theme here for sure.
Yeah, it is identify, find objectives, and deal with the problem as
identify,
best as you can.
Resonate, and resolve.
Absolutely. And all this is going to take time and perseverance.
Yeah.
I don't want anyone to think that we've dealt with our problems overnight or through one conversation.
Yeah. Collectively, this has been almost, between both of our ages, almost 60 years of experience, just like, of trying to figure life out. We've both individually, put in about that much time. And so it does take time. It does take effort. But there are ways to go about it that make it feel less lonely and make it feel more possible.
I'd like to encourage something, though, on this one.
Yeah, sure.
Because I think a big part of it was this. I had to set up a game plan for how I resolved my issues.
Okay.
Right? I didn't recognize completely that I had cognitive dissonance. I only came to the conclusion through really taking time to analyze my thoughts, like, hey, I need a therapist. And the therapist kind of helped me get the rest of the way.
Sure.
I would say it was about 70% of the way that I had figured out, and the therapist was able to do 30%. And that's just indicative of what therapists do. Yeah. They give you ideas and clues.
Yeah, they plant little seeds or they give you tools. Like you want to plant a garden, they're like, well, here's a shovel and here's, what do they call that? A tiller. Those are the things you till up the dirt with. Here's a tiller. Here's a couple of seeds. Let's see what you can do. You know what I mean? Like the therapists don't necessarily like, you're taking a pop quiz and they slide the answer sheet under your desk. They don't do that for you. They just give you the tools to figure it out. Yeah,
it's not exactly like in the movies or anything like that. I had to do a lot of self-work. And one of the things that I also like to recommend for this kind of work is I'd like to induce boredom.
Okay.
It's a very difficult one to do. And I think we should actually do a topic on just boredom.
Yeah.
Right?
Sure.
Where we overstimulate ourselves so much that we don't give ourselves a chance to really feel things, right? And it took me having to actually feel these feelings to have any form of recognition to them.
Yeah.
So as my final portion of this solution, it is take some time and allow yourself to get off your phone, get off of your TV, stop reading your book, right? Maybe do a mindless remedial task, or best of all, sit there bored and try to avoid falling asleep, because the first 3 minutes you're like, okay, this is awful. The longest 3 minutes of your life. And then your brain starts to wander because it wants to entertain itself.
I was going to say, here it comes for us anxious attachment sweeties.
Yeah.
The mind starts spiraling.
Your mind will start to spiral. But the point of it is, once you start to spiral, you can recognize it because you're doing it intentionally. Yeah. You're going to work on it. You're going to listen to what your brain has to say.
For sure.
And process each one of those thoughts. And in that boredom, right, you will find your answers. That's why people meditate.
I was going to say, what you're describing is
meditation.
Realistically, it's meditation. Yeah.
Yes, but I'm saying that you just practice boredom. It's so good for you, and it's so difficult, and I still find it difficult.
Oh, yeah, same.
Thankfully for me, I pray 5 times a day, right? And I use my morning prayers. It's silent, it's dark, it's quiet, it's peaceful. I do my prayer, and then I just sit there in the dark with 2 dogs staring at me. Like, what is this crazy man doing? And I reflect, and I think about it. And I give myself, realistically, 2 to 4 minutes. Yeah. And it's the longest 2 to 4 minutes you'll have. But it's peace for a while, and you get to really process what you're feeling.
No doubt. Well, with that being said, man, I think that this has been a really good episode. I feel good about it. Hopefully you guys have gotten something from it. We're always excited to be here for you. I'll never stop thanking you guys for following along. Thank you for subscribing. The YouTube channel, the Instagram, the TikTok, everything has just came so much farther than honestly we even thought it was going to come this year. We had goals that we thought we set way up here, then you guys just absolutely blasted through all that. So as always, thank you guys so much. Please share this with people that you feel like need it, that feel like could get something from it, whether it be friends, family, acquaintances, or just share it to your story. Put it out there. I have a highlight on my personal Instagram that's all about stories and videos and things that I've found that have helped me heal throughout my life and throughout my journey. So put it on there, put it on your story, whatever you do with it. So we just appreciate you.
Yeah, thank you guys. It's boggled both of our minds how well this has gone. Thank you guys.
Absolutely.
Share, like, subscribe. Hopefully this can help someone.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yep.
And if you go ahead and come into Vibrance Automotive and mention that you saw us on the Little Pricks podcast, you will get a discount on your car maintenance or repair.
That's Tucson, Arizona. What's the new address?
2945 North Stone Avenue. Sorry, North Stone Avenue. It's brand new. Got it 3 days ago. We've been working like dogs.
Nice.
But yeah, come on in, talk to us. We'll take care of you and meet one or
Little
both
Pricks.
of the Little Pricks. Yeah, we're there often.
We'll be there.
So.
We'll be there. Thanks so much, guys. We love you so much. My name's Devon. This is Fareed. We'll see you next week.
Adios.
Buddy, that was a good episode. That was good. I like that you threw the element of Jimmy. That was a curveball. I was not expecting that, but it was such a good hit. Well, that good. Your little cough will help sync up the video and audio. Gotta have something. God knows that'll always be there.
I hope not.
What?
In June, I'm going to the doctor for this stuff.
Yeah, it's probably just allergies, buddy. If we're being honest, you probably just had some desert allergies that you need to get fixed.
Oh, Jesus, they're making out in the fridge.
Huh? Making out in the fridge.
They're making out in the fridge. The guy opened the fridge for a drink, and there's people making out. One fat guy.
Really?
There's one fat guy in this video.
Aw, well, good for him that he got in there.
There's the token hot girl. Oh, and every guy with a shirt off is bumping into people going, shoulder check.
Oh, yeah, and I'm sure they have, like, cut six-pack abs and...
Cool tattoos. Oh, the guy's just looking out from the outside.
This was like, what, circa 2001, I think, when this song came out?
Yep. Yeah. Remastered in HD.
Yeah, nice.
God, everybody's making out. Wow, that's a gratuitous shot of everyone's groin.
Really?
Yep, crotch shots for the win.
Nice. Sick.
Yep. This is me just watching Jimmy Eats World the middle.
Yeah, I know, right?
We're talking about it.
Yeah.
Wow, so much crotch. It's
like us in our early episodes. See, we were onto something.
We were circa 1999.
Yeah.
Wow. Oh, yeah. More making out in the closet. That's a lot of butts.
I was waiting. I was like, is this not going to faze him? I'm like, oh my God.
So good.
Oh God, Red Bull. It's so amazing.
It'll give you wings.
Yeah.
Oh, now the kid's getting all naked. He's like, I want to be part of the group. With some, like, random outcast girl. Oh, look at that. They just saw each other. They're in love now.
Nice.
That's a good video. Like, I hate to say it, but that's a good video.
It is a good video, man.
Aw.
I love Jimmy Eat World.
They looked at each other and they put their... Oh, that's so cool.
They put their clothes on.
They put their clothes back on. They look at each other like, we don't want to...
They went to do it and they were like, nah, fuck it.
We don't want to do this.
Yeah.
Can't. Language.
Oh, stop it.
Seriously.
Stop it.
Can't do it. Gotta be careful with that language.
Absolutely. Fucking not.
Fine. All right. Ready?
Yeah, buddy.
3, 2, 1. I'm still fighting. I'm losing.
I know. What's going on, man? Why?
I think sometimes you just get that giggle track and it kicks in.
Oh, sure.
Oh, man. Let me get a minute just to reset.
You're good, buddy. We've been needing bloopers anyway. We've been getting complaints. We haven't been having bloopers.
I want you to see that there's actual tears coming out of my eyes.
Right.
And then when you say you're fighting for your life.
Yeah.
You can cut this out if you want. But
No, I'll just put it at the end. This is good, man. It's funny. It's good to laugh. Why? We don't want to cut out laughter. This is good, man.
Him and I were working on setting up the new shop. Setting up my new shop for Vibrance Automotive.
Yeah.
And I guess him and, Derek, who we've had as a guest on the show before.
Mm-hmm. The Canadian. Derek.
Went out to lunch. Did their thing, came back, continued helping. We get to the new shop, and he's got to go to the bathroom.
Oh, dude.
He was
gone
gone for like 10 minutes.
Dude, you know what that was? I found out what caused that. I ate some spaghetti out of my fridge, some leftover spaghetti. And my partner was like, Did you throw away the old spaghetti? I said, no, I ate it. She said, what?
You are going to die.
She said, dude, that spaghetti was like a week old. What's the matter with you? You can't do that. And I was like, which she doesn't talk to me. I'm making her sound bad, but basically, she was like, dude, you can't do that. That was like a week old. Oh my God. Like, I was like, nah, it was fine.
I go knock on this man's door.
Oh yeah.
I hear him go, buddy, I'm fighting for my life.
Dude, it was so bad.
I don't know if I'm going to make it.
It was like molten
This
lava.
is 10 minutes of him being in there, silent.
Dude, it was constant too. It
Just
was
silent
constant,
suffering.
dude. It was constant. Like, just when I thought I was going to be all right and the bead of sweat finally started to be where I could wipe it off my forehead and go recollect myself, it was like, strap in, buddy boy. There's more. Yeah.
Thank God those toilets are ADA compliant. You had something to hold on to.
No doubt.
But man, 10 minutes later, he finally comes out and he's like shaking.
Yeah. Bead of sweat.
He thinks he just became slightly religious for a moment there, because
Right.
like things have changed for him.
Yeah.
That was just a tangent. I had to come back to reality. I needed to ground myself. I needed a lemon. And then the lemon thing had me dying too.
Really?
That was just like a weird tangent I had in my head. Growing up in one of my uncle's homes, they had a picture of one of their children, babies, literal baby. Like, this baby couldn't have been more than a month old, right?
Yeah.
And the photo is this baby going. I'm like, why is there this photo? And it's a beautiful professional photo. It's like, how was this accomplished? Photographer gave him a lemon.
Terrible.
Just tormenting babies, grounding babies so you get the shot you want. But that baby had no cognitive dissonance.
Goodness.
That was our giggle break.
A
A
giggle break
from
all right.
normality.
I'll pick us back up.
Thank you, sir.
No worries. So.